Well, that was exhausting. Happy Friday, everybody. We are at the Kenosha Pass Trailhead and we are doing segment 6 this weekend. Now this will probably take us a little over 2 days or just 2 days because I only have till Sunday, but it is a longer segment. It is 32.7 miles and we will be doing a total of 5,196 feet of elevation gain. So it definitely will be a quad buster, definitely a glute buster. Doing some of the original planning for this, I thought I was gonna hike in about 3 miles, camp, and then do about my usual 14, 15 mile days, but it looked a little tricky. It looks like camping's at like 3 and 6 miles, then 11, which makes for a pretty short day tomorrow, and then not till mile 28. So we are going to actually try to hike in 6 miles tonight. We'll see. We've got about 3 hours left of sunlight, so maybe we'll get there. I'm trying to camp at the Jefferson Creek area, and there's a water source there, so hopefully we can make that before the sun starts setting tonight. It's actually really loud at this trailhead if you can't hear it. We're right by Highway 285, but then potentially do a 20-mile day on Saturday. We'll start the morning off with a very steep incline and then go back down, and then another little pass that we'll have to go over. But Georgia Pass is the big pass that we're gonna be going over. And it's gonna be a beautiful evening, a beautiful weekend. There is not any forecasted rain, but we'll see. But lows are gonna be in the low 40s, even at 10,000 feet. And the highs are gonna be in the upper 70s, even maybe reaching the 80s. So this will be a very nice weekend for this. I just didn't plan the camping as well as I thought I did. But anyways, here we go. So we just hit our first mile into the segment, and it is an absolutely gorgeous way to start the segment. You're in tree cover, but it's tall pines, aspen. Now the aspen have leaves on them, and just really pretty. And once you hit that mile, you open up into a view of the valley here and just everything that you're gonna be hiking through in the later segments. So definitely a good start to the evening. And there's also a good there's also some good flat camping spots between a half mile to a mile in. So I did mark it in Gut Hook because it wasn't in there before. And it'll be dry, but you can fill up at the end of segment 5 as you come into segment 6. But anyways, if this is gonna be the rest of the hike, I think we can definitely make that 6 miles before the sun starts to set. So about 2.5 miles in, this thing just opens up, and it's definitely an exposed area. Luckily it's evening time, so the sun isn't hot right now, even though it's out. But if you are doing this with your dog, the terrain so far has been great, so I wouldn't worry about pause here. But definitely this exposed area after you're hitting it noon or later is gonna be a little bit rough, especially going into the sun. But loving this segment so far, and absolutely beautiful. And then my mileage is 2.6. I'm trying to pick it up a little bit to 6.6 miles per hour. So I think I can definitely make that Jefferson Creek camp area. Oh, some people are having fun down there. I don't know if you can hear that or not. Definitely some fun. Jefferson Creek camp area by 8, and then I'll have about 30 minutes of sunlight left so I can set up camp and eat dinner and everything, and then get ready for bed. All right, about 3 miles in, you'll reach Guernsey Creek, but it seems to be a huge party area if you can hear all that noise. So it looks like a bunch of 4x4 roads, people having fun. So if you want some peace and quiet, probably not the right camp spot. And hopefully this is where all the bears go tonight. So we are about to go to bed. We're gonna try to get an early start, like 4:30 a.m., which means I won't get out of camp for at least an hour by the time I pack up. But to try to hit that climb really early in the morning, because I think we're gonna have to do 20 miles tomorrow. We are at the Jefferson Creek area, and there's a ton of campsites here, flat campsite, and good for hammocks too, but definitely better than that gwrulz, I think, area where it seemed to be a lot of 4x4 and off-roading party people. But Jefferson Lake is actually pretty cool if you guys are interested. There's camping up there, and it's lots of good trout fishing, and it's in a high alpine lake. I think one of the highest in the state, at least at like 10,600 feet. So definitely a good place to camp and spend the night if you're coming over from segment 5, or if you're just starting on segment 6 like I did tonight. The hike here was definitely worth it and not too difficult. We made it to camp by about 8 p.m. So about 30 minutes of sunlight left, which was good. Just enough time to set up camp, eat some grub. I didn't really have a full dinner again. Didn't really get that hungry, but I must have a message. And what else? Yeah, so I met a mom and a daughter who are doing a through hike on here, so we might actually be hiking together tomorrow. And then the same lady that I was hiking, or I would say leapfrogging segments 4 and 5 with, is here again this weekend, so she's kind of on the same schedule. But she was saying she was checking the Facebook group, and a guy maybe last weekend said there's 3 miles of post-holing, so we'll see how it goes tomorrow. I'm hoping, because we had 90 degrees this week in this area, that a lot of that has melted and it'll be a little bit easier than the struggling 3 miles. Otherwise, it's gonna be another long day. But anyways, we'll see you in the morning. Good morning, everybody. We are just about to get our hike started. We're gonna try to hit 22 miles today, but I'll say that the first half of it is gonna be all the incline, and then we should have a steady decline to where we wanna go. So hopefully it won't be that bad to do the 22 miles just to get to the next set of available campsites. We're gonna start our morning off with the climb. We've got about 4,000 feet in elevation total for the rest of the hike. Here we should be about 1,500, I believe, over the course of 5.5 miles. So we're going to be climbing to nearly 12,000 feet this morning, and that will be our high point for the day, and that's Georgia Pass. About 6:30 a.m. Hopefully I can get 12 hours of hiking in, but we'll see how it goes. Again, heard there was about 3 miles, which is probably, once we get closer to 11,000 feet, of post-holing. So that just might wear us down. But anyway, it should be a gorgeous day in the high 70s, no chance of rain, and yeah, here we go. So we are about 1.5 miles in. So far the grades have not been bad. It's been a slow and steady incline, but looking over the elevation profile, which you can find in the CO-Trex app, anything that is over 15% grade in that app, if you're looking at that profile, is marked orange. So you can always see where it's gonna be relatively steep and where you're climbing again. And I just checked it, and that's about this 1.5 miles in. But those are gonna be the steepest grades for the day. So a little bit exciting because it's not, shouldn't be too bad, especially with my standard 40-pound pack, which I realize is my now standard for a 3-day trip, just with all the food and the water I have to carry for both Remy and myself. But the hike's been really good. Seasonal creeks are flowing. There's some loose rock, but otherwise the terrain's been really nice. So 2.3 miles into our hike today, and that would be into the segment about 8.2. You'll come to this sort of ridge and open area, and here, this is Whales Peak here, and I don't know if you can see, there's a trail up there. That's actually the CDT, and so the CDT will come through here, and we'll meet up with the CDT later on, and the Colorado Trail and the CDT come together until, I think, segment 25, just outside of Durango. So, in a little bit of a flat stretch here, but wanted to quick talk about or give a tip on how to know what temperature it's gonna be outside, either peak time of day or particularly at night when you're at elevation. And that's if you wanna choose your gear properly, know what degree sleeping bag you wanna go down to, if you should bring a puffy, stuff like that. So general rule of thumb is when you're checking the weather, make sure, especially around Colorado, like either weather.gov or any of those other websites will have the elevation of the weather tower. And general rule of thumb is that for every 1,000 feet in elevation, it's 4.4 degrees difference. Now it's gonna make a difference if it's more humid, there's cloud cover, because that's gonna create that thermal blanket. But if it's a clear night and you're gonna be at 11,000 feet camping and you get a Breck reading at 9,000 feet of 45 degrees, round up to 5 to make it easy for math, it's probably gonna be about 30 degrees at that elevation. So just plan for that, 1,000 feet equals 4.4, round up to 5 for the sake of math. Or same thing, if you're climbing a peak and it's gonna be 50 during the day, at the peak it could be 35 degrees. So just make sure you bring a shell, bring a hat, bring some gloves, and plus you'll have that exposure for wind. So that wind chill up at the top of the peak. But just wanted to note that tip for those of you who aren't used to some of the elevation changes or what to expect when you're hiking and camping in the mountains. So we're almost 4 miles in at about 11.2 in elevation. And I can definitely see where a week or so ago this would have been a huge snowpack area, but most of it has melted. It's just kind of muddy and running off. So hopefully this is the hard stretch that everyone was talking about. And we already made it through those steeper inclines, which I'll say, not bad. So I think you could almost do this without trekking poles if you wanted to. That's kind of how the elevation profile is. There's a couple of steep spots for maybe 5 feet that you climb, but other than that, just slow and steady gain. And so definitely doable, definitely a good segment so far as the terrain, the ability for even a beginner to do it, so not too overwhelming. And we should be at the peak in about 800 feet or just under 2 miles. So this is probably the snowpack they're talking about, but looks like people have made their way around, so we'll see what we have to do. Definitely looks a little difficult. So as soon as you come to that first exposure area, over to your left, you'll see Mount Giat and then Baldy Mountain over here. So it was hard, but manageable. I don't know how much more we have left, but definitely hitting it earlier in the day before the sun has a chance to hit it, because then a lot of it is still pretty frozen. A couple of tricky spots where pretty much stepped and it was up to my thigh in snow. So got some up my pants, but that'll happen. Anyways, I saw a trail runner go through and a bike go through, so I know there's hope. But making our way to Georgia Pass. So we just crossed over, or are crossing over, Georgia Pass. I mean, I did a little photo shoot at the top here. The sun is in a good position because it's still early morning and we are on our way back down. So basically our next stop is gonna be about 6 miles down. We'll take a lunch and a longer break because then we have a little bit of climb before we start to get to our campsite for the evening. But making some good time. Let me see what my miles per hour. So 2.2 miles per hour, which means really, I mean, that's my average, so the incline isn't that bad. And you get a good view from the top of sort of the central part of, or almost the 10-mile range. You can't really see any of those 14ers from here, but definitely a good view. Looks like there's some snow coming up, so I'm gonna pay attention to where I'm walking. So I just had a post hole through that whole mess. Try to go down this way and then come back up, eliminate a little bit easier, but still harder than on the way up. But I think it's because the snow has, you know, touched that part, and so it's getting a little melted. But we are carrying on. Looks like it might be over with, but I say that now. Turn the corner, mound of snow. So this mountain range right over here is actually mountains for the Breck Ski Resort. So Breck kind of sits in that valley, and you can see Peak 6 right here. So the Breck Ski Resorts go Peak 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And that's why I think it's one of the better ones for beginners for skiing, because very easy to navigate when you have all those peaks that are right next to each other. Yep, definitely more snow. What do you think, buddy? You can do it? What do they call post holing for dogs? Paw holing? We'll see. All right, we're gonna try to figure this out. I definitely spoke too soon. Check this out. Bam, it's like you've got to go up and then you go down to try to navigate around the big snowbanks here. And it's definitely in some areas up to my thighs, so when I get stuck, I need a little Remy guy to pull me through. Go, buddy. Good boy. Easy for you. Keep going. Before you fall. Go, go. Oh, jeez. Alright. Well, that was exhausting. It's like 2 miles. That must have been what they're talking about with the post-holing. Right after you leave the pass. And sometimes it's actually easier to cross these without trekking poles because then you're not leaning into the side with your trekking poles. But just saw a trail runner and he said it gets better. But you're kind of skirting this slope of at 11.6 in elevation. So the snow is kind of all just the same, but it looks like we're starting to decrease that elevation a little bit. And the fact I saw the trail runner gives me hope. We're gonna make it through, but just, it's definitely thinning out a little bit. So, but yeah, that was definitely difficult. But if you guys are coming in like July or August, this is definitely gonna be melted. And so this is where you can pick up some really good miles, just because it is flat with a slow descent, kind of, again, going over that 11.6 slope as you descend off of the pass. So we are at the Middle Fork Swan River, taking a long lunch break, maybe like an hour. That descent was a little bit gnarly even after the snow. It's pretty steep with rocks, so my knee is definitely feeling it, so I've got to stretch it out for a bit. But the river is definitely very cold, so it can soak your feet in that. And Remy can get a little bit wet with his paws. He's kind of being weird right now and like lying almost upside down on this hill, so a little bit silly. But I'm gonna take a long break, and then we've got about 10 more miles I think today, so right 2.2, so I think we'll get to the campsite about 7:30 to 8 p.m. Hopefully this will refresh us. We're getting some electrolytes and protein. And yeah, just gonna kind of take it easy, stretch it out, dry out our sweaty stuff, and then get moving again. So we're making some good timing so far. Just wanted to point out about 18.5 miles into the segment, I didn't turn on this wireless mic, but if you can hear in the background, there's a bunch of dogs barking. That is actually a kennel or training facility for sled dogs. So don't be alarmed when you start hearing it. Nothing funny going on, just sled dogs. So you can see it through the trees down here. Remy, of course, is going a little crazy. So over there is Mount Giat again, and then you can see where we came through today, right down here. Kind of amazing. Got that many miles in. We are just stopped for a little breather. Kind of get my butt kicked I was on a good pace for a while, and then I think this is harder than the first part where I'm just super tired, but definitely the incline seems a lot harder. You would need trekking poles. But slow and steady, keep moving on. So I think we reached our peak. It's flattened out quite a bit. And let's see, we're at 16.23 miles for the day. It's about 5-ish more miles to go till we get to the Horseshoe Gulch area where there should be water and some camping. And let's see, I think I'm gonna stop though and feed Remy in a bit, and I need to refuel some, so I'll probably just have a bunch of snacks, which might end up being my dinner. Again, snacking it up for dinner, what I love to do. But yeah, so my camera battery is actually running out, so the next time you see me might be at camp, or I'll just read and pass out. Who knows? Yes, coffee. Good morning, everybody. We are just about to get our short hike started. We've only got about 4 miles to go until we get to the Gold Hill trailhead. So last night, what happened is I ended up not getting to camp till about 9:30, so after dark. And I think my mileage was off because of all of the routing I had to do around those snowpacks. I added an extra mile. So we clocked in 23.4 miles yesterday, which is a lot for me, a lot for Remy. I don't think we've ever gone more than 16, 17 miles in a single day. And that was really ended up being out of necessity because there's a 10-mile water carry between the Swan River and then this Horseshoe Gulch, which is the refill right before the camp spots up here. But I just wanted you guys to note that in the data book, there isn't a camp sign or sign for camping at either the North Fork Swan River or the Swan River itself. And there's actually plenty of camping, really nice camp spots. You just have to cross the bridge a little bit and go up and to the right. So if you are planning this, which I definitely did some poor planning on my end, those are definitely good places to camp at. Anyways, we're just gonna get our morning started, a nice stroll into Breckenridge. And then hopefully by the time we get there, it'll be time for lunch and we can burger up a bit and drive back to Denver. Here we go. So we just passed the Blair Witch Trail, and it's actually named after the movie because apparently it's for mountain bikers, but some of the curves and edges are so bad, it'll scare the heck out of you, just like the Blair Witch Project movie. So fun fact of the day. And there she is, ladies and gents. Peak 6, Kenosha Super Chair. That's where segment 7 will cross through, and we'll be doing that next week. I'm gonna definitely check the snow report though. All right, we're almost to the Gold Hill trailhead, and that's another 32.7 miles off of our 500 miles of fun in 2021. But first, it's the Colorado Trail Disco Dance Party. And now,